I've become friends with school shooters. I've become friends with school shooters. I've become friends with school shooters. Shooters.
Illuminati is a thing you need to watch out for. They want to depopulate and slave us so much more. World domination, I'll get into that later. I'm hardcore, fierce and sexy. You're just a hater. You deserve the ridicule because you're an absolute zero. I'm the keeper of the chalice, a rock and roll hero. I'm not an idiot nobody listens to, because I'm not a failure in life like you. Let's talk about Bill Gates and the mark of the beast and the orgies in the streets at the Catholic feasts and Bill and Hillary's human trafficking ring. And George Soros got the money to pay for everything. Socialism is for losers, working for the devil. Chumps that can't fight, they ain't on my level. It takes an evil one to try to debunk and doubt it, so I'd rather die than stop talking about it. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out for the Illuminati.
I'm the woker, baby. Why so curious?
Where's your fucking god now? Got more Jew gas taped on this end. This will be for the emergency exit. Pop it through the hand. Oh, there's Garfield. This is all too fucking real. Nigga. Yeah. Tomorrow. I love you. Hate you. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel really...
You know, it's really interesting that my last video was called Innocent Blood on the Democrats' Hands, and this may well be a sequel to that. Welcome to the MC Too Tall show. I'm MC Too Tall. Now, apparently, there was a school shooting. Another school shooting. This time it's in Minneapolis at a Catholic school, Annunciation Catholic School. And the shooter, grown man named Robyn, identifying as a female named Robyn, who apparently had his name legally changed to Robyn with the help of his mother while he was still a minor. So, again, the parents enabling things like this, jumping the gun. The person thought he was a woman when obviously he had other mental issues going on. Obviously, the person had more going on than just thinking he's in the wrong body. He was obviously homicidal. He was a homicidal Homo sapien that ran rampant wild, and he was stockpiled with all types of illegal firearms. And Minnesota is one of those tough gun law states. Yet crime continues to run rampant in that state because of the Democrats. So they have these draconian rules, but meanwhile, you gotta have secure schools. if there were armed guards to neutralize the son of a bitch bastard, lives would have been saved. It's to my understanding that an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old were among the victims. They were among the fatalities in this latest shooting. And of course, Mayor Fry is up there crying about the freaking gun laws, that they need to be tightened up even more. Amy Klobuchar is crying about how strict the gun laws are, yet there's still people getting shot in her state. Tim Walz said something similar to that. But I thought Tim Walz would be happy about it since he's friends with school shooters. But I digress. And you see where they're going with this. So, crime runs rampant because of the Democrats in states where these gun laws are the absolute strictest. Because the next step is, well, if with gun laws these tight, people are still committing crimes with firearms, we need to have a completely unarmed citizenry. Like in Australia, like in the UK. We need a completely unarmed United States of America because we should only trust military and law enforcement with our guns, which is the most asinine thing one can argue. The foundation of this government was based on the pushback against taxation without representation and to uphold the right to keep and bear arms. Among other things, freedom of speech and religion, of course, freedom of the press, that sort of thing. But what holds it together is that right to keep and bear arms. You're allowed to say what you want to say without getting dragged off to the gulags because you are legally able to acquire a firearm, unless, of course, you're a convicted felon. And so, an animal runs into a school, shoots it up, in a state where the gun laws are strict, and that's going to be the excuse to disarm all the citizenry throughout the United States. That's the strategy. That's why it only happens in these areas. Or if it does happen in a red state, it happens in an area where there's certain restrictions as to whether or not you can bring your piece of protection. And that's what happens, folks. That's what happens. You create a large sum of sitting ducks. They get picked off by one of their Manchurian candidates. And boom, they have their spark to ignite the raging fire against your right to keep and bear arms. And let me remind you that Dexter Taylor sits in Rikers Island fighting against a sentence of 10 years in prison for making gun components for his own personal collection, his own personal use. And that's unconstitutional. And we need to hold our right to keep and bear arms. Even if we choose not to carry a gun ourselves, we should not infringe upon somebody's right to keep and bear arms. Well, what about assault? No, you take the lunatic and you stick him in a mental hospital where they belong, away from the damn guns. That's how you do it. You don't take the guns away from responsible adults that use their AR-15s responsibly. And tell you what, if it were up to me, if a private citizen had the money for it, I would allow them to have a grenade launcher and an anti-aircraft missile if they needed that to protect their home. If they felt they needed that to protect their home, why the hell not? And they're a responsible adult about it. You know? So, not taking the guns away from the private citizens that are responsible adults about it is the key. You don't want to do that just because a few people are irresponsible with it. It's stupid, because the bad guys will always acquire something. Look, drugs are illegal. Why are there drugs all over the place? Guns are illegal in a lot of areas in these blue states. Why are these shootings happening in these blue states? Tightening the gun laws creates more gun violence, because for the most part, people want to be law-abiding citizens, and they say, well, I live where I'm not allowed to carry this kind of gun in this area here at this certain time in this certain place, so I'm going to abide by the law. And you have a whole room full of people abiding by the law, doing the right thing, and they're sitting ducks for somebody who acquired a weapon illegally to just come in and pick them all off. And that's what happened here. And this person obviously had more going on than thinking that he's a girl. And you see the banana clips. He's holding up the banana clips. He did the psychotic thing, of course, putting little messages on all of them, like the sick bastard that he was. And he's holding them up and repeating the messages that he wrote on there. One of them is where is your effing God now? Things like that. Obviously, the person didn't have God in his life and or hated God. So he was obviously an ungodly individual. And you have the Democrats to thank for that. You have people that hate believers in God. You know, we're not talking about people that are rushing into your home while you're having premarital sex, telling you it's a sin, and then assaulting both you and your partner. We're talking about people who believe in God because they believe in their heart of hearts that Jesus heals and that Jesus saved them from bad times. Hell, I know I prayed for things in bad times and was able to come out of those bad times. And you could say it was coincidence. You could say it was divine intervention. I believe the latter. So does this make me a dangerous person? Yeah. This person did not respect God. Remember when they say respect God and watch for the Illuminati? This Robyn, whatever it was, obviously didn't respect God and was working as an agent of the Illuminati, whether willing or unwilling, because they used these Manchurian candidates to unload on the innocent. They don't get their hands dirty, but remotely end up with blood on their hands through these characters that commit murder with a firearm, obtained illegally in most cases, and then they have their excuse to disarm the American people. Every time there's a mass shooting, there's an argument to completely disarm the U.S. citizenry. And it's wrong. It is wrong. The Bill of Rights, the rights we have in the Constitution, have been endowed by our almighty Creator. It says it in our founding documents. This isn't rights given to us by the government. It's rights acknowledged by the government that are God-given, that in these documents they promise not to infringe upon. Which means the right to keep and bear arms is a God-given right, and it should be the types of arms that allow you to defend yourself in the changing times. If it was sticks and stones and nobody else had an AR-15, then it is what it is, man. But the founding forefathers, I believe, were ingenious enough to know that weapons technology would change over the years. They knew this because the Pennsylvania long gun was considered a super fast firing weapon in its time. And it existed in those days. The presidents that happened to be forefathers of the country, in other words, the founding forefathers of the country who eventually went on to become president of the United States. As you know, it wasn't just George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe. These were among our founding forefathers. Any one of them could have changed the law because weapons technology was changing right before their eyes. Weapons technology evolved from the time of the Revolutionary War to the time when John Quincy Adams took the oath of office and when James Monroe's term as president had ended. And so they could have changed it at any time. They could have amended it. They could have been more specific with the Second Amendment if they wanted to. And they didn't. With weapons technology changing with the times right before their very eyes, they knew we would come to these capabilities 249 years later. And so I'm not buying the BS that the Second Amendment is for muskets. Because even as that Second Amendment was being written, we had a hell of a lot better technology to kill an enemy than a freaking musket. Miss me with that unconstitutional bullshit. Let not their Manchurian candidates distract us from our right to keep and bear arms. Let not these Manchurian candidates' actions cause us to surrender our right to keep and bear arms. It's a God-given right. When you submit a God-given right to government, you're surrendering to God, you're serving two gods, and making the one God that counts secondary to a government you are putting all your marbles into as if it's God. Government is not God. Government should be operated with God's guiding hand, but never work as a God. That was the mistake the Roman emperors made. That was the mistake European king after European king after European king had made. That was a mistake made by many Egyptian pharaohs, and that was a mistake made by the Tsar and his family, which proved costly to them. Government is not God. So when you hand in a God-given right to government, you are, in effect, going against God. You're showing a lack of respect for God by surrendering your God-given rights. You don't have to exercise it, every right, 24/7. I recommend you do. Use it or lose it. A right is like a muscle. You got to work it out to stay in shape. It's like a literal mind. You have to keep reading to stay literate. Practice makes perfect, which is what I recommend. But even if you don't practice each and every right, you should always fight to keep each and every right. Because you never know when you need to exercise that right. Most gun owners, the majority of gun owners in the United States will go their entire lives without ever having to kill or even injure another human being. The majority of gun owners will go their entire lives without ever having to injure or kill another human being, because it serves as a deterrent. Somebody breaks into your house with a crowbar and a knife on their hanging off their belt. You pull out your gun and you say, "Step back, I have a gun." Drop the knife, I have a gun. Get on the floor. Don't make me fire this gun. A lot of burglars prefer to keep their lives. They will listen to you for the most part. And if they lunge at you and it's you or them, of course, you're committing self-defense. But it usually doesn't come to that. Gun owners put the bad guys at bay. They call the police. They're nabbed, and it's a lot better scenario than calling the police while you're unarmed and you get stabbed up or strangled and you're found dead by the cops by the time they finally get there. So, the presence of a gun is a deterrent. You may never have to fire your weapon to injure or kill anyone. The presence of it alone is enough of a deterrent oftentimes. And that's what these numbnuts don't get. Now, who's to say if that psycho would have still opened fire if he approached that school and there were security guards there with sidearms? If you have this high-powered weapon, enough security guards with little pew-pews could still get you before you get them. You know, there's probably a 50% chance rather than 0 that school would have been much safer with armed guards there. And well, you can't have it like a prison. You can't have it like a prison. You know there are armed guards in concerts. There's armed guards at sporting events. And you don't even know they're there. Okay? You have like ex-police officers that are still licensed to carry a revolver. And they're like the backup security. And they'll come out blasting and blazing if somebody pulls out a gun that was smuggled into the arena. So, it happens. A completely unarmed citizenry is wrong. And the thing of it is, you have to weed out these Manchurian candidates. Because it's actually, in my opinion, it's a remote version of MK Ultra. Now they don't need to drag somebody in a room, inject all kinds of drugs in them, and sit them in front of a screen in some room. They could just put a drug dealer in their life. Put a psychiatrist and a pharmacist in their life. Don't bring them to the screen showing all kinds of psychedelic movies. Bring all that shit right to them in their little smartphone. Oh, Trump is a monster. Trump did this, Trump did that, Trump did this, Trump did that. Let me take some more antidepressants. Okay, Trump did this. Trump, you ought to kill him. See? See where I'm going with that? I believe they're creating Manchurian candidates to disarm American citizenry. And one of those banana clips actually said, F Donald Trump. One of those banana clips actually said, F Donald Trump. Another one said, where is your God? So, this person obviously didn't respect God and thus did not have God's guidance. And without even knowing it himself, he's a murderous animal, so I don't give a flying fuck about misgendering at this point. So, bro was completely godless and involuntarily working for the Illuminati, or the conglomerate of secret societies that we love to loosely term the Illuminati. Because saying the Illuminati's disbanded is a stupid argument. You know I don't mean that. You know I don't mean the Adam Weishaupt founded group. I have to say this all the time, every time I say that 4-syllable word. 5-syllable word, excuse me. I can count. And so, our streets are violent, our schools are violent, not because of guns, but because of the Democrats. Because of the Democrats making the people who would have defended themselves defenseless. Way back in the 80s, I remember watching the 11 o'clock news. There was a kid sitting in a car with his sister, because this is back when you were allowed to keep a 12-year-old kid in a car while you go into the store, grab a few items, and jump back in. So the guy pulls up, leaves his 12-year-old son and his little sister in the car. Somebody breaks into the car through the back window. The gun is in the car. The kid fired a warning shot. The guy still didn't back off. The kid fired again and killed the motherfucker. Oh, that's so violent, that's so violent, that's so violent. Well, Papa taught him well. He taught him how to be accurate, taught him how to fire a warning shot so he wouldn't have to kill him. And if the guy wanted to be persistent, it will cost him his life. And in this case, it did cost him his life. The way to combat armed bad guys is with armed good guys. So, anybody that says the good guys with guns theory falls through is a blatant liar. They're lying to you, folks. They're lying to you. This is what happens when you erase the borders, you take away God, guns, and gold. You have this. And onto the I say, respect God, watch out for the Illuminati, follow and share this content, subscribe to my channel, stay strong, keep kicking that slang. I'm MC Too Tall.